Welcome, friends, here at Worldcon and at home. We are the Ink to Film podcast, where we read the book and then see the movie. I'm writer Luke Elliott.
And I'm filmmaker James Bailey.
And this week, with the help of a live audience, we sit down for a creative conversation with Martha Wells. So Martha Wells is the author of dozens of novels encompassing sci-fi, fantasy, media tie-ins, and more. Her acclaimed series, The Murderbot Diaries, has won 2 Nebula Awards, 3 Locus Awards, and 4 Hugo Awards. The hit Apple TV Plus adaptation of her work just finished its first season and has already been renewed for a second. Welcome to the show, Martha.
Thank you for having me.
I can't tell you how much it's an honor for us to have you as our first live guest on the podcast. If you're new around here, we read books and then we watch the movie, and we like to, from a form and craft perspective, talk about them. This is a creative conversation where we have an author who has had their work adapted come back on and kind of talk about some of that process. So with Murderbot Season 1, I'm sure everybody in here has seen it, is now out. And Martha's here to chat with us about it.
So absolutely. On behalf of everyone here, I want to first thank you, Martha, for creating Murderbot, a character that I think means a ton for a lot of people in this fandom, in the sci-fi and fantasy community, especially those who are neurodivergent, gender non-binary, and et cetera, who see themselves in this character.
Well, thank you. I'm been really overwhelmed and grateful to hear how much it's meant to different people. It's not something I ever expected that my dumb little robot book would would be popular, let alone mean so much to so many people.
We are both neurodivergent, and I just want to say personally, it's rarely, if ever, has there been a character that affected me like Murderbot. And I just wanted to thank you again for creating a character like that. Letting everybody know, we're going to get into full spoilers here for All Systems Red and the first season of Murderbot, that's the TV series on Apple TV.
Yeah, but we won't be getting into season 2. So if you haven't read beyond All Systems Red, you should be safe. Okay, so before we get into the interview proper, we actually have a video that we would like to show.
Hello, Martha. Congratulations, Martha. Hello, Worldcon. And I hope you're having a lovely time, or about to have a lovely time. For all those who don't know, I am Noma Dumezweni, who got the honor and pleasure and privilege of playing Dr. Mensa in the Murderbot series. From the well of Wells's amazing imagination, the Murderbot Diaries. Just have a lovely, lovely time. Always. Blessings, grateful gratitude to you from me. Enjoy your day.
Hi Martha, I hope you're very, very, very well. Just wanted to say a big congratulations and a very heartfelt thank you for writing Murderbot, which means so much to so many people, and for letting me have a chance to play in that universe. I think the characters are fantastic, the stories are wonderful, and it's no wonder that your work resonates with so many people. So thank you and enjoy your evening.
Congratulations, Martha, for this incredible acknowledgement. Thank you for inviting us all into your imagination and gifting us with the incredible world of Murderbot Diaries. And thank you for your support and enthusiasm for those of us who brought Murderbot to the screen. It has been one of my greatest joys, and I feel so lucky to be able to bring Dr. Bardwaj to life. Hope you live it up. Hope everyone treats you like a queen. And congratulations.
Hi, Martha. This is Sabrina. Congratulations on being a guest of honor at Worldcon. You deserve so much for creating such an amazing world that I'm clearly such a huge fan of. It's hanging in my bedroom. I hope you have a wonderful time at Worldcon, and huge congrats and lots of love from New York. It's where I am. All right, bye.
Hello, everyone at Worldcon. My name is David Dastmalchian, and you may know me from a Apple Plus television series called Murderbot. Murderbot inspired by the Murderbot Diaries by the incredible Martha Wells, a guest of honor at Worldcon. I wish I could be there to celebrate you, Martha. You are such an incredible mind, heart, and Imagineer in the world of storytelling, and you've contributed so much to the space that I love so dearly. I'm so grateful for the Murderbot Diaries in particular because you have told a story that lives so beautifully on the pages of the books that you've written, and yet which translated so wonderfully into the series that I have the great honor of being a part of bringing to life as Garathan. I got to meet you, as you know, briefly on the set of Murderbot in Toronto with your incredible partner, and it was a true highlight of that life-changing experience. Again, I wish I could be there with everyone celebrating Martha, but I'm so grateful that you are getting the recognition you so dearly deserve, and I hope you're having a wonderful time, and I hope to join you again soon in some storytelling adventure somewhere.
Congratulations, Martha. Hi. What a beautiful honor. Congratulations. So beyond well-deserved. Thank you so much for sharing your work with the rest of the world. I miss you. I can't wait to see you. And we'll see you very soon. Congratulations. Mwah!
I loathe interacting with humans. But if I ever found myself locked in a hopper with a human and I got to choose whom, well, I would definitely go for Martha Wells. Martha, a huge congratulations on being the guest of honor at this year's Worldcon. And to all the attendees of the Worldcon, congratulations, because you're about to meet the legendary Martha Wells.
Oh, wow. I hadn't seen that before. That was wonderful.
How cool is that?
That's really cool.
Amazing. Let's hear it for the cast of Murderbot Season 1.
So I did want to say earlier, we are going to take audience questions at the end of the episode. We're going to have you line up at the mic there, but I'll let you know when to do that. You don't need to start doing that now.
All right, so with these creative conversations, we often like to start with kind of an icebreaker. It's a big question. Other than Murderbot, what is your favorite adaptation and why?
Oh, gosh. It probably one of my very favorites was Hamish Macbeth. It was a TV series, a British TV series set in Scotland. And, of course, I can't remember the name of the actor right now. Robert Carlyle? Okay, thank you. Yeah, that's the good thing about fan conventions is whenever you say, I can't remember that, then there's somebody that does. I read some of the books, and this was so much a better adaptation than the... it was better than the books, is basically. I thought the books were kind of a little bit cold and cynical, and they made the characters so warm and so funny and so idiosyncratic, and it was just I think kind of a little bit of a masterclass in how to have all these different types of personalities and make them quirky, and occasionally pit them against each other, but make them really some characters that you really wanted to watch. So that's probably one of my all-time favorites.
I love that. I'm hearing some similarities to Murderbot Season 1 too, right? Like a lot of quirkiness and idiosyncrasy.
Yeah, I was going to say, so speaking of character, I've heard you talk about this elsewhere and even maybe at a Q&A at this con, but I want to hear you talk about it again. Where did you come up with the idea for Murderbot, both the character and the eventual book that you would write?
I was working on the end of the book, The Harbors of the Sun, which was the last book in my latest fantasy, or my previous fantasy trilogy before the current one. And I was getting all kinds of ideas for all kinds of different things, and I just decided, I got an idea for a short story. It was obviously a science fiction short story about a person who was like an enslaved security person who had a governor module, and had hacked it and would have to reveal that they had hacked it in order to save these people that they were supposed to be protecting, and that it had kind of started to, actually like. And it was going to be a short story with a sad ending. And it was an idea that really grabbed me, and so I was trying to take some notes down because I needed to finish the book, and then I could go and work on the story. And I ended up writing the 5-page scene of Dr. Mensah knocking on the cubicle wall and talking to Murderbot. As I started, when I finally got the chance to start writing it, it just came very easily to me, which is not normal for my writing. I normally have to sweat blood over trying to get stuff, especially the first 20, 30, 40,000 words. So having it flow so easily was really interesting. And the voice came very easily, the first line. Now I'm losing what I was going to say. I sort of like, oh yeah, remembering that. That was great. I wish that would happen more often. But pretty soon as I wrote this character, I realized I don't want to kill this character off. And so I was going to have Murderbot go back be rescued by them basically and go back with them. And then as I got closer to the ending, it just felt so wrong. And it would be to go back with humans at that point would be like trading up to a better captor, basically, or better owner. So I didn't really know what I was going to do in the ending until I got there, and then I did, and I was really happy with how it turned out. So yeah, that's basically it. There was no great revelation or anything. It was like, this would be really cool, and then I started working on it.
Awesome. Yeah. So I've seen around that you said that Murderbot might be your most personal character that you've created to date.
Oh yeah. Like 2016 is when I wrote it. I was really angry at everything that was going on in the world, and I didn't even know at that point how much worse it would get. So I was really angry, and I wanted to put that into a character. So that's how Murderbot developed, kind of as a character that was trapped in a situation, but was not. I'd always disliked stories, or just didn't care for stories where the character is trapped and can't do anything about it. I always sort of find that frustrating and sort of mildly psychologically terrifying. I don't like to read about people in that situation. And so even though Murderbot is really pretending to be trapped, but it has all these ways, and it develops all these ways to not just escape, but kind of thrive. And so that was a big part of it. And I wanted a character that I could kind of put my anger into. And I did not realize how people keep asking, did I have a sensitivity reader, or, how did I decide to make it so neurodivergent? And I didn't. I just wrote it, and then and that's when I started to realize, that would sure explain a lot, because I knew I had anxiety, and I always had anxiety, and I thought I had OCD, but the more, I talked to people who had been diagnosed with autism or ADHD, it was started to get like, oh yeah, and that too, oh yeah. And because I grew up in the 70s, and they didn't really diagnose girls with anything like that. You were just a bad person. So yeah, it was kind of a big revelation for me too.
Yeah, wow. And so this book series takes off, does incredibly well, is winning all these awards. But then at some point along the way, an option happens. Can you walk us through that? When did you first hear about interest? How did that work?
I can't remember. It would have been probably 2018 or 2019. And what happens is my agent arranged, I guess we were getting, I guess they put out there that this was available, and they were actually starting to get inquiries about it. So I think I had conversations with, I can't remember now how many in that first round, of several different people. And David Goyer was one of the people who talked to me, and he seemed to have a much better grasp of the book and what it was about than in the other people I'd talked to. And so we went with him, and then he wanted to do a movie originally. And then, but after the contract was almost settled, and then it kind of fell apart for, against the will of everyone who was working on it. It was just it couldn't go on at that point. And so we ended up entertaining another round of people who wanted to option it, and I think there were 3. And Chris and Paul Weitz from Depth of Field, who work with David Goyer, were 2 of the people, and we talked to them, and I was really lucky because you don't get to, it's a really weird thing because you're on the phone call sort of deciding something that could affect the rest of your career. And I was just really lucky I picked them. And then you have a long period of working out the contract because there's different. Paramount was actually the company that I think we were negotiating with at that point to do the option. And the option is just a payment for a certain length of time that the production company will have to try to start making the series or the movie and then sell it to the company that will actually put it on the screen. And I think we went through 2 or 3 option periods. And the fact that they kept re-upping it, even though contract negotiations were still going on, but basically they're buying the right to make this movie or TV show for this length of time, and they really wanted to do it, and so that was cool. And then 2021, the contract was finalized, and then in 2021, I think was the first phone call I had with Paul Weitz, and he said, well, it's going to have to be different. And I said, oh, yeah, it's got we're taking a first-person, very internalized narrative, and you got to make it, basically third-person visual. So it's a completely different form of writing and then communication and everything. And he was like, oh, that sounds great. And because they didn't know I understood what they were going to have to do. And because there's scenes that Murderbot refers to in passing that ended up in the screen because that was information you had to have that in the original novella Murderbot just told you. We worked on it, they wrote the scripts, and I looked at them and I made suggestions, and we talked about things that would have to be changed because of the budget or, just the fact that so many characters on screen, there wasn't enough for them to do. In a book that doesn't matter. You can have, 400 or 500 people wandering around in the background, and nobody's needs to. You don't have to give them something to do, but in a show, you have to. So that's why they had to drop 2 characters, and we talked about which characters, and basically. They sent me incredibly lovely production paintings and designs for things, and it was just an incredibly cool experience.
Seems like it was a lot more collaborative than many authors experience when they have adaptations made.
Yeah.
We've even talked to some who they got maybe 1 call. We talked to Ed Ashton for Mickey 17, and he said that he got 1 hill to die on.
Really?
They gave him 1 hill. What's the 1 hill? And
he also said Bong Joon-ho was incredibly nice and generous person and all that.
But it sounds like you were involved along the way quite a bit more.
Oh yeah, and it was really fun getting to see the production paintings and people, these great artists, designing Tommy Arnold was one of who did the Subterranean illustrated edition of the Murderbot Diaries, was one of the people involved in designing the armor, and there were other artists that did all the stuff, and just seeing it, and there was one design for the hopper that was the most incredibly beautiful and innovative design for a small spaceship, and Paul sent it to me just so I could see it, and he said, but we can't use it because that's not what a hopper looks like. Hoppers, trying to make this thing look kind of worn out and not super reliable would be like in Midsummer Murders, where they, take one of these beautiful cottages and sort of throw some dirty laundry around and go, oh, this is where a poor person lives. And you're thinking, well, they can sell that mantle for probably about €1 million, so maybe they should try that. So yeah, it just couldn't be used, and it's like so they had to tell the artists that no, we can't. It's great, we can't use it. And seeing things, and there was a really funny one of the inside of the hopper, and one of the things we were talking about, not the hopper, excuse me, the habitat. One of the things we were talking about was how the preservation people would try to personalize the company equipment. And we talked about having ads that would flash up on the wall. I think they did that, where there would be screens with ads that you couldn't turn off. And so if you look in the habitat, I think there's one where someone's put a blanket over a screen to get rid of it. And we looked at and they did we talked about which of the designs for the ads looked good. And there was one where I was like, this is too normal, because it's like, this looks like it's a cocktail or something. This one over here with the plant, it looked like, am I buying a plant? Am I buying a potato? What am I, and so that's how they had to be, is basically advertisements for products that you just didn't understand what that was. So there was a lot of cool stuff like that I'm not sure it made it into the final version, or was just maybe back in the background, because that's the super cool thing about designing a science fiction and fantasy show like this. Is it's basically, someone said that a movie is 100 people get together to tell a story. And it's really like that, because everybody who contributes, everybody who does the tiny pieces of work in the background and the design and everything, and it all comes together.
I noticed one thing you said, along with Chris and Paul. It sounded like you had the opportunity to choose them. Was that, so you kind of had people come through, pitch you, and then you...
Yeah.
Oh, very cool.
It's basically a pitch,
okay.
to you, and then you...
Because sometimes I hear that authors, it just I don't know if it's an option, an agent kind of thing, but it seems like it goes and they don't have much control of who picks it up and carries it forward.
No, it was me picking up. So wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was always... at one point it was me and my literary agent, Jennifer Jackson, and then and who arranged most of it. And then as it started to go forward, she found another agent with William Morris to do the film, or to do, because the contracts are publishing contracts are extremely complicated, and that's why you need an agent. You need someone who's an expert in them. And you get the film and TV agent to be an expert in that type of contract.
So was it just that dynamic that allowed you to be so involved, or was there some sort of actual negotiation around that made sure you were going to be as involved as you were?
In the original contract negotiation, I think the film agent asked for me to be an executive producer, and I don't know who she was negotiating with at that time, but they said, well, we don't want to give her that kind of power, which I can kind of understand, because I could be Banana Pants, who would just demand all this stuff, and they didn't know me from anybody. So I understood that, and I honestly did not want another job where I had to work, because I was pretty swamped with what was going on just in my publishing career at the time. So that was fine. And then, but once I started talking to Paul, suddenly it was just me and Paul and Chris, working out stuff and figuring things out, it seemed like. And then they would do a bunch of work and come to me and show me things and talk to me about things. And when I asked for stuff, they would try to do it. And sometimes you just couldn't, because one of the things, couldn't have too many drones. There are a few drones in it, but because it was just too expensive to have things hovering around all the time, which is really more accurate to the universe. But this is the real world, and you can't, and sometimes you can't afford stuff. And what was the other thing? Oh gosh. I said that because I was hoping it would jog my brain, but it didn't. Anyway, I'll think of it in a minute. But
so it reminds me of another question. So around that, you have all this control, and yet I feel like there's got to be things that you're having to let go. You're having to say, okay, this isn't going to work.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you were like, I'm going to fight for this thing and make sure they nail this? This has to be a part of this, like a kind of like a hill to die on.
I don't remember doing that. It was I like working in groups. I did some magic story for Magic the Gathering. And one of the things about that is there is a whole world building team and other people that have worked on this for a long time, and they have, they know about the whole history of it. And so you work with them. And so I've had that give and take and back and forth, because it's like, they're both, Paul and Chris are both writers, so you're all writing. I mean, I didn't do any script writing, but you're all, their suggestions were good suggestions, and it was their adaptation, it was their work that was going to be out there. So I wanted to listen to them, and it wasn't all about me, is what I guess I'm saying. I wanted to listen to them and make sure, to really hear them and see what they wanted to do. And they had so many good ideas. Like Chris came up with the idea of the Labibi sequence, because it needed to be, because it was 10 episodes, so it needed to be a little bit longer. And that was such a great idea. And I said, I wish I'd thought of that originally. I would have put that in the book. And there were things we talked about, like needing to show some physical manifestation of the alien remnants.
Yeah.
And I think I came up with the spiral, which I really, if you read my work, you're like, oh yeah, Martha came up with that, because it's very, I don't know, I think that's one of my idiosyncrasies. But the spiral of the alien hostiles dying in the spiral, and so it was a lot of little stuff, and a lot of it's hard to remember. And I had a lot of fun with it, especially they actually wanted me to come up while they were filming, because they had a lot of questions for me. But I was actually writing Demon Queen, and I couldn't go up there except for one day. I think David mentioned one day I was up there on the set one day, and which was an incredible experience. I absolutely loved it. But they would email me and call me and ask me questions like, what does Murderbot weigh? And I know they're on the set. And it doesn't matter if I'm, in the restaurant at Nordstrom's having lunch with my friend. It's like I have to stop and answer this right now. And what is Dr. Mentz's degree in? And those kind of questions that you don't think about until they're actually on the set doing stuff. And it's, we didn't know this.
Well, we heard that you got to meet some of the main cast as well. And what was it like being on set and seeing your world? Because again, the change in medium, decisions have to be made visually.
Yes.
So what was it like to, and again, like how much input did you have in like the overall look? Did it match sort of your vision of it? And also going forward, were you pulling some of details from future books into the design elements of the look of the show?
No, the designers all did it. Sue Chan was the main designer, I think, and then the artists work. And I was basically looking at stuff going, that's really cool. Wow. And it is really cool. And
also, did you end up with the trinket from set? I like to ask that. If it's a secret, you don't have to tell us. But
I have the back of my chair, the director's chairs people sit in. It has my name on it.
Very cool.
So that was really cool. We went up there. Me and my husband went up there to Toronto, and they were doing on-location stuff most of the week. And then on Friday they would in the soundstage. And I'd never been on a big soundstage like that before, and so that was absolutely wild, exciting, crazy experience of just seeing all this stuff, because I always loved movies and TV, so just getting to see something made. And the cast was in the Hopper set doing the blocking with the guest director when we got there, and we set up on because the Hopper set is kind of raised up, and there's a scaffold on one side where the directors would sit, directors and producers, and they had the double monitor. One of them was the big gigantic camera that comes in through the back of the hopper, because it's just the front, most of the front, and then the back was not there. And so it's the big camera that comes in, and then there's like a steady cam that the operator walks around inside the set, and then there's a scaffold on the other side for where the crew would stand to do stuff, and we sat there, and at that point I didn't even know, am I going to meet the actors? Because I didn't really ask them what this day was going to look like. And they were actually filming the scene where the two hostiles fight on top of the hopper, which was a really fun scene to watch. And of course you couldn't see anything. There were just giant green screens hanging around the hopper. When the actors were done with the blocking, I got to come in and meet all of them and hug everybody.
So cool.
And it was just really fun.
So when I first thought about trying to reach out to you to do a Murderbot episode, the main thing I immediately thought of that I wanted to ask you about. So the casting happens. Alexander Skarsgård is cast as Murderbot. How did that come about? Were you involved in that decision? Did you have any worries or concerns about someone who's so masculine playing Murderbot? Like, what were your thoughts about that?
Not really, because we had talked about, I think they had a bunch of different actors basically try out for it. And then I'm not sure, I don't remember exactly how Alexander Skarsgård I think he was just sent the script at one point. And so I wasn't really, I'm not a casting director that's such a specialized job. So when I finally heard about it, that was really exciting, that we were going to have an actor of that caliber playing Murderbot, because I'd seen some of the other tests for it, and it's really hard to. It's really hard. I'm not a casting director, so it's really hard to tell if anybody is gonna, be able to really do it. And watching different people kind of do it, there were people that seemed really good, and you're like, and then, but when you see Alexander do it, he's so much better. Just the way he's, someone had said just the micro expressions that say so much, and yeah. So it was very exciting, but then it wasn't very long after that the Writers Guild strike started, and so it's kind of like, oh, everything has to kind of stop, and then and I was really in favor of the strike. I'm very pro-union, and
Yes.
especially for writers and actors and everybody working in any kind of creative industry, because we know how much they will use you up until there's nothing left if they can get away with it. So it was like, and at that point I wasn't too worried, because I thought it's probably going to go forward, and it's kind of like it's a very surreal position to be in, because having a book go from, a lot of books get optioned, and having one actually go through all this and get made and aired on TV is like a unicorn. It just doesn't happen. So I was sort of both optimistic and also like living in this altered reality where this was actually going to happen. It was kind of weird. But so that was, and then there was the long gap, and I know they were really worried that because there was such a long gap between it waiting for the strike to be over, or the strikes, and they didn't want the news about Alexander Skarsgård to get out. And at one point, I think they called me, and it was just like, we think someone knows, and it's going to be in this. If it is, it'll be in this news thing. And but it wasn't. But we all know it wasn't us, and we were like, it wasn't us. And I had a similar experience where there was a release of Magic the Gathering information when we were working on it, and there was a huge panic, and I was like, it wasn't me.
Wow.
And
so was it like accusing, or was it?
It wasn't accusing.
Oh,
it was just like, everybody I think involved with it was like, it wasn't me. And
I can't believe they would loop you in on that stress. It's like, If you didn't
Yeah.
do it, yeah.
Yeah.
That's-
No, it wasn't. It's not accusing. It was just more like they let you know and
yeah.
that this is going to be a big, huge deal.
And did it leak?
No.
No.
And so there was nothing. And so we were like,
Again,
I think that's
stress.
how those things go. And then you're paralyzed with fear for like a week, and then nothing comes of it. So that was good. And then they kept thinking, it would be announced soon. It would be announced soon. And then finally it was, and we didn't get any warning. Let's got up one morning, and there it all was. So yeah, it was an exciting time.
What has been the response from fans? Like, of course, I think as book readers, we get so married to the version from the book. What has been the response to you personally so far from fans with the portrayal and just the depiction of the story in general?
It's been really good. I've had so many good comments, and so many people said that they really needed to watch something that was different like that, and just really it just felt so it felt like it was providing a little bit of relief to people who were very stressed out, so that's really good. I already knew it was. I got to see the full 10 episodes in the pre-production when it doesn't have the special effects or any of the sound and color correction and all that stuff. And then I got to see the full thing in the post-production. So I knew it was really good. I mean, even in the pre-production when you could see the parking lot behind the habitat, and people standing there holding a green screen because it was blowing in the wind and all this stuff, and even the voiceover wasn't completely done. So sometimes the voiceover would be Alexander, and sometimes it would be Paul, and sometimes it would be the editor, the video editor, and everything. So, and it was still. I mean, you could tell it was going to be great. Oh, and the moment where when they were filming, and I think Chris sent me a picture of John Cho, because he'd send me little clips. Like one of the first little clips was Brad Wadge getting grabbed by the monster, and instead of like putting her in a harness or something, they just have a guy in a green suit, two guys completely covered in green suit, just come up and grab her and run off with her. And I thought, that's really cool, because wow, that is a much safer way to do it than just have a large man pick you up and you flail and they put in the monster later and you don't have to be in a harness or thrown around or any of that kind of thing. So that was really cool. And then he sent me a picture of John Cho in the Captain Hussein outfit, and I was like, that looks like John Cho. And I'm looking at it, and it's like, that is John Cho. And I had to email him, Chris, and go, is that John Cho? And he's like, yeah, he's in Sanctuary Moon. And it was like, holy crap. So, yeah.
I love that they kept that a secret from you somehow. That's amazing.
Well, yeah, it's like there were a lot of people. Paul called me and FaceTimed with me when they were in the production office finally. And everything, they had moved the production to Toronto, basically, and had started up, the office in the area where they had in the complex where they had the sound stage, and he walked all around the office and showed me a lot of the stuff that they hadn't had time to send me, like the map of the planet and the pictures of all the actors that they had cast at that point. They still hadn't finished casting. I think they had Alexander and Noma and maybe David, and so he's showing me some of the other people and really cool to see the production office for your, the TV show of your book. That's a really cool experience.
I love that we got two shows for the price of one, too. Like, All Systems Red talks about Sanctuary Moon, but seeing it depicted in the season was so fun.
That was so much fun. And I love the little twists in it where it sort of starts out as people think it's like a Star Trek pastiche or whatever, and then it gets dark
really
kind of mirroring the show, the Murderbot show. It gets dark suddenly and with just no warning, and it was just, there's bits of, I wish they could have had time for more, because there was more stuff that Chris wrote, I think, and more that we talked about that would just, there's no time to get in there.
How did you feel about some of these changes that had to be made, like, or whether they had to be made or they chose to make them? Like Garothan getting more time in the story and explored more thoroughly.
I just think that really worked really well.
I agree.
And,
I love that.
It really worked great, and just his whole portrayal of that character. And I loved the scene where they do Bitter and Sweet. That was so great, and there were so many things, like the costume designers did so much world building, like when they gave us a tour of the costume department, and it was Carrie Grace, and had this embroidery on the character's socks, and then there's embroidery on Rothy's shirt, and she had decided that Arata would be bored going through the wormhole and would start doing stuff and would want to customize their uniforms so it would not be this boring, bland corporate stuff, and so she would do this embroidery. So there's embroidery on the character's socks that you don't get to see, but it's the world building for the actors and everything, and I like that the characters' costumes were not sexualized. They're incredibly practical. There's just so much that went into it. And watching all these people work really hard to build your world, I mean, it's an overwhelming experience.
One thing we talked about when we covered it was we noticed it seemed like a slight shift into wanting to make the entire experience feel a little more comedic. There's plenty of comedic elements in the book, but it felt a little more focused in the show and being kind of a comedy. What are your thoughts on that? Like, did that come about as an active decision that they made, or was that just natural for the creative team?
I think it was natural for the creative team and for the material. And I thought it was really weird when people were angry. There were some people who were angry that it was funny. They made it funny, and I was like, I am funny. So, and I thought that was also another way, because when I did the reading and people were laughing at, Murderbot's internal narrative, and so I think that was also a way to try to get that feel, because Murderbot is often extremely hilarious to itself in its thoughts while just standing there, and there's, you want to try to get that feel into the show.
I feel like there's a little more Martha internal monologue in Murderbot than I expected. I feel like we're starting to learn what's going on up there.
All right, I think are we ready for audience
Yeah,
questions?
absolutely.
Okay, so if you would like to come line up at the mic here, we'll have you say your name and say your pronouns if you would like, and then ask your question. We will do as many as we have time for.
My name is Ever, and my pronouns are they, them. When I was watching episode 10, I found it to be a really thrilling experience because there were a lot of new scenes added that were very visceral, like seeing Sec Unit get melted, or a Sec Unit, not our Sec Unit, get melted down, and the labor strike scene. And I was wondering what that process of deciding that these were the right parts of the universe to flesh out, to tell that story. What was the process of figuring that out?
I don't know. That was Paul and Chris. I mean, I knew about it was in the script, but I wasn't part of that. That was the writing that they did. I think, I can't remember. I think I originally it was going to be like a fire furnace or something instead of the acid bath, and I said, because it talks a lot about being disassembled, so I said it should be more, it was something, the fire furnace didn't seem quite right, but I think that I like that what they did with it, because that did work out and made a lot of sense.
Thank you for the question.
Hello, I'm the voice of Virtual. I'm a volunteer at the con working for folks on the Discord. So on behalf of Marnie Jones and Bob Devney, they would like to know more about how much influence you had on the development of Sanctuary Moon, and specifically what your thoughts were on Clark Gregg's hair.
That was so great because I love that I didn't have very much influence on that at all. I mean, because we did talk a little bit about Sanctuary Moon but I didn't have any influence. That was their genius, basically. I just loved that the hair and the costumes were so far out. It didn't look like anything in the real. There's really a big effort to make a big contrast between that entertainment world and then the actual world. But I loved Clark Gregg's hair. I think my favorite part, one of my favorite parts of the whole thing is DeWanda Wise when he tells her to smile and she does that expression, and it was just like that, and it's so appropriate at the moment. It's just like, yeah, okay, yeah.
And one more from the internet. Phil would like to know how creating the show has affected, in good or bad, your writing of future Murderbot books.
I don't think it's affected it at all, really. I mean, it makes me want to do it, you know. I'm a really stubborn person, so I just kind of do what I want to do, regardless of what else is going on. So there are elements I will probably incorporate, like the embroidery. Oh, the other thing they did that was so cool was when Bharadwaj gets bitten by the hostile, and it rips open this part of her jacket, and they talk about Arata's repaired it for her. It's repaired with the smocking going a different direction, and the costume people had decided that the preservation people would do a thing when you were wounded or something, and they would, instead of throwing away the clothes you were wearing, they would repair them, but they would leave it like amended, where you could tell that something had happened there, and it was part of how you deal with trauma, being injured and being traumas, is you remember it's there, but it's repaired now. And so it was just really very cool concept.
Love that.
Hi, I'm Judy, she, her. Sorry, very short people. I really loved in how the Prezox team kind of recognized that Sek Unit would go off and check the perimeter when he was tired of them. And it didn't really hit me until the last episode that it was this massive metaphor. And is that something that they winkled out, or did the writers come up with that on their own?
Yeah, that was Paul and Chris. They're great. They're really great.
That's why you picked them.
I mean.
Hello, my name is Adina. My pronouns are she, her, hers. My question is, there were a lot of small tweaks that were elements that were reshuffled from later books that were brought earlier that might have cascading effects for plots later, specifically Mensa's anxiety, Pinley being a cutthroat lawyer, the way Murderbot's name was revealed. These were all very small tweaks in how they were changed for the big screen, and I'm wondering what your thought process was with those changes, and how you feel about them, all the questions around it.
Some I can't answer because, again, it was Paul and Chris. Yeah. So, but the thing with Mensa's anxiety is there in the books, and that was a really deliberate choice on their part, and it also one of the lines I love the best, where Murderbot is helping her calm down, and it says, "I couldn't have both of us incapacitated by anxiety," and it was like, that is such a great line. What were the others you were mentioning? Pinley being a lawyer. That's sort of that was in there, but not as obvious, I think, in the first book.
It was shifted to Garathan, actually, very notably, because they gave him more screen time and more fleshed out, a lot of the stuff of she knew this, contracts, and we brought in Penley, she knew everything. It was actually Garathan knew everything because he's from the corporation rim. It's a small tweak that gave him more screen time, but it kind of ended up shifting a lot of her power away. No shade. I loved it. It's just an interesting tweak.
Yeah, well, she's still the one leading the lawsuit, and she negotiates in the end with the company lawyer, who is a great character. So I don't see that as taking away anybody's power. I just thought it's just, it's his knowledge of the corporation rim, but it's not like she didn't know that this is what the corporations were like.
Hi, Zontan, he, him. I was wondering what your thoughts are on like a Sanctuary Moon like proper spin-off series happening. If that was an option, or if you can say if it might be an option, would you be on board? Would you help write it? That kind of thing.
No. Because I really like it better where it's just really unexpected and sort of, it's just like, what the hell when it comes on and you're like, what will it be now? Because after they did that twist, you're always going to be expecting someone's head to get cut off. You're not going to know what's going to happen. So I love it just being something that just jump scares out at you periodically through, the important serious scenes of Murderbot. You never know what's going to happen. So
I love that we're all as entranced by Sanctuary Moon as Murderbot.
Hi, I'm Esther, she, her. This is kind of a deep cut, so my apologies in advance, but I'm a huge fan of Stargate SG-1 and Stargate Atlantis. And I was wondering, first of all, the in-universe show World Hoppers, is that an homage to Stargate?
Yes, it is.
It is. Good, I'm so glad.
Yeah.
Also, are you a fan of Stargate?
Oh, yeah. I wrote 2 Stargate Atlantis media tie-ins.
I understood that, and was it because you enjoyed Stargate, or was it just
Oh, yeah. I think it would be horrible to do a media tie-in of something you didn't like. I think it would be... And I'm not really big on forcing myself to do stuff. So
right.
I'd been a Stargate fan for almost, we got HBO so we could watch it. And then when Stargate Atlantis started, I really loved that show too. So yeah.
I'm glad to hear it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I had another real quick question I forgot to ask. If there's anyone else like me who might have only read some Murderbot books, but would love to read some other Martha Wells novels, where would you suggest the Murderbot fans go? I
would probably tell them to start with the books of the Raksura. That was my most recent fantasy before Witch King. If you're already a big fantasy reader, maybe start with Witch King. It's kind of a different type of fantasy, and I'm not really good at describing it very well. But the books of the Raksura, I think people would like. Those are some of my favorites to write.
Definitely recommend Witch King. Hi, Soren, they, them. I was really overly emotional watching the final episode, especially when Garathan uploads Murderbot's brain and brings it to it, and then they have that moment, and then the final scene. And I was curious your thoughts of that whole ending sequence, how that felt for you, and what you thought, seeing it from the page to the screen.
I thought it was really brilliant. I'm really glad that they went that way, and they had the perfect actors to do it. And I think being able to show the human characters, their reactions, and trying to find Murderbot was such a fabulous addition to the book. Was just really brilliant. I just loved it so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Martha. My name is Makana, they, them, and I'm a debut novelist, and we're actually working on the option process right now. So I wanted to ask if you had any advice for novelists who are navigating options and screen adaptations.
Just get pure dumb luck is where it's worked for me. You kind of have to trust your agents and listen to them. And yeah, I mean, I didn't, and kind of trust your gut. And if you just don't like what someone is saying about it, doesn't agree with you, don't go with it just because you want an option. Because there was one option where they were very enthusiastic, but the I can't remember who it was, if it was a writer or a director, said that he thought of Murderbot as a teenage girl. And it was like, no, that Murderbot was very adolescent somehow. And it's like, no, Murderbot never had an adolescence. It doesn't have those kind of hormones. It's a bitter adult. So, and I had never thought of Murderbot as coming off as childish or anything like that. Yeah, so just kind of go with your gut, and if it doesn't sound right to you, then don't do it.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Hats, she, her. And I just wanted to know if you want to have a cameo on the show at some point.
I'm a terrible actor. I'm really terrible. I look at the camera and stuff. So I would probably be a good dead body. Yeah. I think that would be slumped over a console somewhere. But even that would probably be it'd probably be stressful and rigorous, two things which I try to avoid. So I'd like to, but I'm not sure I could.
Thank you. And really quick shout out to how fantastic Kevin R. Free did with your audiobook.
Oh yeah, Kevin R. Free is fabulous.
All right, we're going to go with one more question. I apologize we weren't able to get to everybody, but we are running short on time. So one more question.
I was going to ask that last question, but instead, how do I get to be an extra?
All right, we'll do one more then. One more.
One more question. Oh, yes, amazing cosplay.
Moved to Toronto. My friend was actually an extra on Murderbot. They do casting calls. And according to her, it was scary because when they filmed the first scene, it was actually in a very dangerous, dilapidated building. And it's like, okay, dance there on the edge. If you fall, you die. But don't worry, we've got a stunt guy. He'll catch you. But my question is, you said there was extra Sanctuary Moon. Can you tell us about it? And was it always going to end in that cliffhanger where we don't know what actually happened?
I can't tell you. I mean, it's a secret. And also, it could change because there's a lot of things that you just talk about in a project like this, and they end up not actually ending up on the thing because you change your mind and stuff like that. Think of something better. But and I prefer Sanctuary Moon to remain mysterious. But I think there will definitely be more of it.
Woo!
Very excited.
Stay tuned.
Yeah, that sounded like a stick around and keep watching for season 2, which must have been so exciting for it to be renewed like right away.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I was really hopeful, and they seemed optimistic, but one point Chris said he didn't want to talk about what we would do yet because he thought it would jinx it, and so yeah, so you never know, and this it's such a hard business, so yeah, getting it, that was they called me when they found out, and I think it was announced. They called me on Saturday, and then it was announced that Monday, and yeah, it was a big moment.
All right, well, we're going to have to wrap things up here. All of you, if you would like to watch this episode again and relive the magic, we are Ink to Film. We have a YouTube channel where we're going to have this video. We also have a podcast you can subscribe to wherever you find podcasts. Join me in thanking Martha for joining us for this. It was fantastic.
Well, thank you for having me. It was great. It was a lot of fun.
Thank you. There is one thing left that we like to do on our podcast, and that's a specific kind of sign-off. So, as we always do, until next time,
keep adapting.